3, 2, 1.
Light them up.
I'm Paul.
This is Buck.
This is the Paul and Buck Show.
Hey, the big Buckin deal. Curious? Download the latest app at paulandbuckshow.podbean.com.
Okay, guys, we're back, and we got some special guests here, some Central Texas racers, if you will, of all types. Like we got drag race, we got some street racing stuff going on here. But I'm gonna let you introduce yourselves.
Family team duo, is that what it is?
Go ahead.
I'm Michelle Kato.
Chris Kato.
Stephen Roth.
Stephen Roth, all right, awesome. Like I said, these guys have been around. They did a lot of racing. I raced with you in 5 days back. It seemed like it wasn't too long ago.
How long ago? How long did I go back?
No, that was it wasn't too long ago. Maybe 6 years ago, maybe when it stopped. I don't know.
Well, how long
About 6 years ago.
Yeah, it started with I started racing with like 11 or 12. When
That's when we started.
Yeah, that's when you guys started doing the rumble at Little River.
Yeah.
So we'll get into a whole bunch of stuff. But right off the bat, we just want to start off with Michelle.
The beginning.
Yeah, let's start from again. Just where are you from? Where were you born?
Yeah.
I was born in East St. Louis, Illinois,
Illinois. Okay.
and I went to high school in Collinsville, Illinois,
Okay.
and then I moved to Austin as soon as I graduated.
Okay, good. So at that time, when did you get into the world of cars and racing?
Like, what got you into it?
What got you in there? And
what
what
was
was
the
your first
motivation?
car?
Well, my dad used to race, so he always had hot rods. I was never allowed to drive them because I was a really bad driver. And
Chevy, Ford, or Mopar?
he was a Chevy guy,
Oh, there we go.
so that's why I went the other way.
Find something out.
It's okay. Like I said, I'm sure there's some influences there, but yeah. So your dad was in racing.
Mhm.
You at what point did you finally get to drive, or
Yeah.
at what point
Well,
did he ever let you drive?
Well, I snuck it out
Of
a couple times, of course, but they had the streetcar nationals that came into Collinsville.
Oh yeah.
That's what the very beginning of them, and
Yeah.
that's the first time I experienced a burnout
Right.
in the parking lot, and I was like, I want to do that,
Yeah.
but I
That was
didn't.
cool.
I didn't for a long time. I mean, I hung out with the
But you
guys.
had that urge then. You were starting to get that urge.
Oh yeah. I mean, all my friends would street race. They had Camaros, and my my high school sweetheart had a Camaro, and I'd be the one that would hang out the window trying to get races because
There you go.
I was like 17.
Trying to initiate, instigate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did it work?
Yeah, I did actually, and I usually got a cut of the money for it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was pretty
Awesome.
ingenuous.
There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
So you said you went to the streetcar nationals. What were some of the names back then that you remember? The big names that went on, or maybe you got some
that was a long.
magazine covers like Chuck Samuel and none of those guys.
I don't even remember any of the
Really?
names. I just remember that it was just a big party.
Yeah, 'cause I know they were part of that. I
Yeah,
know they
that
were
was
part of that little area.
when you look at we're in the let's say like the early 90s or mid 90s, right?
Yeah.
That was with the Pat Musey was
Yeah.
big, and
Well, even
Christian,
prior to that, these guys
and then when you start getting into the Carters, those anyway. So was that about that time?
It probably
Yeah,
was.
I think it
it was
morphed
in the
in.
80s.
It's been a whole lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it was definitely with those.
so
guys
that
in there.
event's been around a long time. So
Yeah.
So at that point, then after that, like say you started going around,
Yeah.
you start, did your dad ever let you get
Go to
into
the
the
track?
driver's
No.
seat?
No, not ever.
So did your dad go to sanctioned events or just like street race? He was a street racer.
He raced at a track I believe it was in Fairmont City. It was just a little, probably like an outlaw track back then, and that was probably when he was in his 20s.
Okay.
But he had a little hot rod T-bucket, that he would tootle around town in.
So that thing was fast because it's lightweight.
Yeah.
It didn't take much to get
Yeah,
that thing
and
going.
I was not allowed to drive
A to B.
it.
No, those things are. Did it have seatbelts?
No.
Because that's those T buckets. A lot of people forget to put a seatbelt
Or
on
if
those
they even
darn
have it
things.
at all. That
Yeah.
wasn't even a thing. I know if they drove it on the street, it wasn't not even didn't have to have it in there if it
What's
wasn't made from the
What's
from
a
the-
go
from
kart
the
with the
manufacturer.
fiberglass body?
Pretty
Big
much.
old engine. So,
Yeah.
yeah, those things can get dangerous, but who cares when you're doing 130, right?
Just keep it straight. Just keep it straight.
Hey, pull it out.
Just look to the side, that blow or that tunnel ramp. Yeah,
Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. You moved to Austin. Okay, was Austin? Were you aware of like the street scene back in the Austin time when you came around? Because from just you go back from history, right? People street racing all the time, 70s, 80s. There were some big names. We had a few on the show.
Yeah.
Were you aware of any of the street scene when you came in to town?
Not when I first moved here, but when I met this guy here,
Yeah, okay,
Chris.
there you go. Chris
yeah,
rolls into Chris.
Chris was into Mustangs, and he was racing. He was racing at Edinburgh, and he bought me a Mustang, and
gotcha.
that's
how it evolved.
That's how it evolved. Yeah. And it wasn't my Mustang that I have now. It was another crossbody.
Well, okay. Well, that's some good information.
The early one or the same, similar to what you have?
It was like an 86.
Okay.
Oh, like a Fox. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Chris, let's since your name rolled in here,
what did you do?
Where are you from originally?
I was born in Southern California
Southern Cal.
and didn't really do much there. I left when I was 8, moved to Washington State, and got into cars when I was pretty young. Got my first car, bought my dad's 67 Falcon 4-door 289, and put headers on it and did all that before I could even drive.
Yeah.
What part of Washington State did you move to?
We were in kind of a little out of Seattle, Monroe, Woodinville area. I don't know if you know that area.
I was a little kid, but we lived in Moses Lake,
I think that's Eastern. Is that East?
Yeah, I don't know what part, but all I know is spring was nice, fall was nice.
Yeah.
Winter was just a slap in the face, man. With the ice, the snow was about,
Yeah, that was probably Eastern Washington because Western side it doesn't have that much snow usually. They say a lot of rain, but not actually that much rain. It's just dreary almost all the time.
Like
gray.
Drizzling.
So that's where you got your feet wet in drag racing. Right?
Yeah, well, actually, my neighbor's boyfriend had a 67 Cougar with a rat motor, just worn out tires in the back, and we used to go street racing. Used to go cruise Evergreen, and we'd go street racing down on River Road, and I guess I was probably maybe driving, maybe not, just a little bit before I was driving, and he was older, and I'd be in the back seat. We're running down the road. No seatbelts. It's very, very unsafe, but fun. That's where I really got the bug. Never raced myself until I moved out here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
To Texas, not
to Texas.
Yeah.
Into Austin is the first place I moved to.
So about what year in Austin did you move in?
94.
94?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was pretty much the end of a lot of the street scene at that point. Because Super Shops was closing down. I actually built my first car out of all the stuff I bought out of Super Shops that were shutting down.
So here's the funny thing is that every person we interviewed, they wrote Super Shops is always in that picture because that was a meeting point at one point. When it was rolling.
That's where everything would be decided.
Yeah.
So, but it was shutting down when I moved here, so I didn't really get involved in that scene. But I did. The first laps I made down in Edinburgh. A buddy of mine was a Mustang guy, and he convinced me to buy my first one, an '85 Mustang. It's actually the same car I still have now.
So those Super Shop stuff went into that '85.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harrison Cam, Harrison Roller Rockers.
Yeah, it was just the basic stuff.
Yeah. Tell them how we paid for your car.
Oh, put it on a credit card.
Yeah.
There you go. Put it on a credit card. Hey, you don't know how many people I knew
back in the day,
that would max out like 2 or 3 cars. Like, you knew they were the fastest, but in the back of my mind, like, how the hell's he gonna pay back all those cars, man? That's a lot of money for them heads, man. Like, I don't know. That's the way people do it.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, and you're right that time or that year, 94, 95.
That's what
we talked about. There was like a little downfall because if you're racing, even if you were like at the track racing, because I was about that time I was at track, it was just bracket. Yep. So that's all you were doing. Street Nice was a bracket. Yeah. So it was street racing was probably still there, but not quite as it was like earlier on those time. And then we talked about like 2001 when Fast and Furious came out. That really
everything prior to that. The only reason why we street guys like Tobar, me, the only reason we go to Little River and Tobar said it perfect. He goes, man, we just went just to get that shoe polish number.
Yeah, put on the window, roll into town.
He wanted to show that number. I'm like, dude, that was the same thing we were doing. We were all doing it.
Yeah, we were all doing it.
So hard. But that's all Little River was good for us. It's just
because it was just bracket. There was no heads up stuff. There was no. It was just bracket. You know, that's all you did. So you get in where you fit in. But
it was the street nights is what we went out for.
That's Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday,
and hopefully you split like at 11 to get downtown.
When was Run What You Brung? Was that Sunday?
That was probably they had Test and Tune on some of the street nights. They had street night like twice a month, 2 times a month, like every other week. It was street night because back then there was nothing. It was just Sunday bracket racing. Saturday was the street night back in like those 90s. And the thing that was cool about them is they used to get a trophy for fastest ET on slicks and fastest ET on street tires on the street night. Yeah, which was sometimes that's all people went for. Just break the beans first round. Give me that $50 in the trophy. I don't care, right? Yeah. But I think Run What You Brung was probably it may have been Saturday night because they did have Test and Tunes mixed in with the street cars. But so at that time when you moved to Austin, right, and then you bought your car, were you going down to Edinburgh a lot or?
No, it was really the only time I went down there. I actually drove the car down there to switch out the rear end to an 8.8 and with gears in it. And we switched it over during the day. Yeah. We went to the track and raced it that night, and then I drove it home.
Were you a T5 guy or an automatic?
Originally T5.
Because everybody hated an automatic Mustang back then. It just couldn't get out of the hole. And then if you did make it out of the hole, you couldn't drive anywhere because you had too much gear and all your buddies. But a T5 would basically leave you at home. You know,
right.
Yeah, we ran T5s until we started racing more seriously, trying to bracket race. Then
start breaking stuff.
First thing was first time was
Alamo.
For what?
Where you bracket raced it because you had him in the. It rained.
We did race Alamo one time, and we had to drive the track to
rained,
dry it out.
Did y'all go a lot to Alamo?
No, it was pretty much the same thing. It was kind of going down when we started doing it. So
one of our major complaints back then when we go over there was on the return road, man. You chew up your car, man.
You knock out ball joints.
Yeah. So we hated going over there.
Well, that's how Steven got introduced to drag racing. I think he was about 4. And he was riding in the car, and every time they'd go, they would dry it up and dry it up, and he just waved me. I'm going fast.
I'm gonna do the same.
Yeah. You drive the track. All the cars come down there. But Alamo was
it was a thing. Mike Murillo was out there. You know, he'd show up around 7:30. It was already getting dark, and then that's when you're like, the real players are coming in because all damn day is so hot. Nobody wants to show up. You know, we're the only fools because we drive out there early Saturday, and then you see the real time. But man, it was such a rough track. I didn't like taking my car out there.
I've seen a lot of, I've heard of a lot of accidents, but then of course, then San Antonio Raceway or Marion, right? That opened up in '99, I guess, 98, 99.
I don't know what time it opened up.
I think it was 99.
Yeah, I think it was 99. Anyway, so at that time, were you guys still hitting it? Were you getting into racing still? Were you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I know y'all went to.
We were doing Clash.
Oh, the Clash.
Clash. That was a big. That was a big
deal. Clash tight. Yeah.
Fun Ford
weekend.
That
was first weekend. We went to Florida and raced.
Bradenton, yeah.
Florida.
Bradenton, Florida.
We were doing True Street with the Mustang, so we ran one at Dallas, and then we ran one in Florida at Bradenton, and then that was the end of the small block, and I started messing around.
What time were you running back then with your Mustang?
I don't even remember. It was not very fast. There was a stock 302 with a nitro shot on it and a C6
I remember the car was on my classic car.
Oh yeah,
my classic car.
Yeah, me pushing it through the staging lanes.
Really?
Yeah,
I want to say it ran like 1220s, 312.
Because this is a true street. This is a true street class.
Yeah,
but it was still stock bottom end.
T5. I was gonna ask. Did what was it called? Mustangs and fast forwards.
Muscle Mustangs.
They were out there at Alamo just not Alamo, at San Antonio Raceway almost every weekend trying to get a car to go into the magazine. Mm-hmm. And so, for a little while, I became Ford because I always liked Ford. I had Chevys first. Mm-hmm. And so I would always pick up a magazine, man, and I'm like, damn, there's a guy there, one of the guys that from street or track from here locally. Yeah. And then I started looking into it, and I'm like, why do they keep going to San Antonio so much? So I thought I'd ask, because you were a Mustang guy, so I figured at one point somebody's going to say, hey, can I take photos of your car? So
not really. We weren't.
It was pretty.
Yeah, it was
pretty bland.
Yeah, it was a white 85 Mustang with nothing special. Back then it had some cheap aluminum rims that were screwed for the slicks, and
it's basically just a competition machine.
It was just for going out and playing at that point.
And then Little Pooch.
That was once we started
on Friday night.
Yeah, that's once we started. We put the big block in it, and
no turning back now.
Still had steel heads on it.
For like 970s.
That was fast for the Mustang,
especially for what was in it. I mean, that's when we had Randy David and Ralph Howard, John Dinkle, and all those guys.
Those were the
beginning of the Texas 210-5
days.
That
was kind of before really. It was Texas 210-5 is when they were still calling it.
Yeah, that's what they were calling back then. Yeah,
So, I remember looking underneath that car. I'm like, man, you look under. I'm like, he's got an 8.8. Man, that's stop. But
strong,
I want to say that's when they were running. They were still running quarter mile.
Yeah,
the
quarter mile
stuff.
Yeah.
Like Ralph, I think was running like bottom nines. And then Randy's car was always the one to beat.
Randy was always
running. I think he was running like 880s or 890s.
Yeah, they pulled the at the very end. I remember it was those two guys, and all night I've been seeing low nines, and then it was the green Mustang versus the silver Mustang, and I'm like, oh wow, something's gonna happen here, and man, they both got on their bumpers, and they went into the eights, and everybody came back like, holy shit, these dudes are in the eights.
That was the beginning of the.
And that was the end of the night for that night.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they set it on fire, man.
But I remember, being a kid, seeing all that. That was when we first were like, okay, we want to do this.
Yeah. Right.
We put him in a junior dragster, and he didn't like it.
Too slow.
He was like, I think I'll just wait till I get my license.
Yeah.
Let's skip the fun part.
But those things got kind of expensive. Those little motors, I mean, you start
it's ridiculous now. So I don't.
Yeah.
You gotta get billing. Anyway, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, that's like I said, that can be real because like I'm gonna be getting to that phase of my little one, so I'm preparing myself. That's why.
Just get him a mini bike and a Hopper freight motor and let him have at it. He'll recognize the speed and he'll come back and like,
yeah. So okay, great. So Steven, when did you come into when did you first get your first car?
Well,
going down the track.
When I turned 16, obviously I wanted to take anything with a steering wheel down the track.
Right.
Whether it was my little Ford Ranger I drove back and forth to school or
whatever, right?
Yeah. Of course, my mom and Chris have had 1,000,001 Mustangs, so anything that they'd get, I'd try and get a hold of it and take it to the track. Then finally, I think I went off to college and came back, so I didn't get into a first race car until I was 21, I think.
Yeah.
And one of our buddies, Nick Nisley, had a little purple SN95 that we built for him. And he was like, well, it's just sitting here. You should drive it. So I drove it a couple times that year, and I was like, it's cool, but we need to go faster.
We go faster. Right?
It went in like 720s or something. I bracket raced it a little bit on and off. And then that's when we decided to put that motor in a Fox body we have that used to belong to our friend that passed away a couple years ago. His name's Mark Brown. He was a Mustang Club guy from the early 2000s. But so I started driving his car, started actually bracket racing, and did that for, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years before. Of course, that's when we started doing the Rumble, the River stuff.
Right.
That was about that time frame when I was bracket racing.
Right, gotcha.
Did bracket racing and index racing.
Right.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So we started doing the 10.5 stuff with the pink car, and well, at one point we had 3 true 10.5 cars. So of course, I was just chomping at the bit, trying to wait for a seat to open up, ready for me to.
Just wait then.
And then I was getting pretty good at the bracket racing. Finishing the top couple in points several years. Doing 6.0 index, 650 index, 7.0 index, 580 index, anything I could get the car into.
Yeah.
And then Chris actually had some health issues, and we had the blue car, which we call Papa Smurf. which also used to belong to Nick Knisley.
Okay, yeah. I remember that one. That's one I remember.
And he was like, "Hey, you want to drive the blue car?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I want to drive the blue car."
It's fast.
And we had thrown a small block in it because we had picked up a small block, and totally mismatched combination. It had the converter and the transmission and the rear gear from the big block still in it. We took it out. First time out, we struggled. We were like 530s. Then we took it to the river to run it, and actually wrecked the car. So that put a big dampener on my basically my second time in a fast car. But then, parents told me, if you're gonna ride the horse, you can't get it.
Yeah,
you gotta get back
shake
on
it off.
So,
yeah.
Now, what was the cause of the wreck?
It was like right past the 60, wasn't it?
It was
like,
driver error mostly. I mean, I'll be honest.
Spin a tire.
I've never had been on a radio before.
So then it would have been a fully prepped track then.
Yeah, the track was prepped. Yeah,
maybe.
Well, slick. It was still slick prep.
Yeah.
Because it was at a Rumble at the river. And
Rumble was a slick tire.
2000 and I think it was 16 or 17. I think maybe 17. It was actually September of 2017.
Yeah.
I'll get why that's important here. So we wreck the car, and then we get it slapped back together. At this point the car's 12 different colors. Different color fender, and hood, and everything else.
Going down, right?
But we throw the small block. We get it all straightened up to where we can run it, and then we go back out, and the car does pretty good with the small block in it. Runs like best of 512 or 508 or something like that. So then that was right before the off season. So we put the big block back in it. We go running some different races, and we ended up going out to West Texas to Pinwell Raceway out there to support our buddy Gene Nicodemus running the RTRA series out there. So we run limited X275. We're having problems with the track pulling up, and so it was pretty much we were riding the struggle bus all weekend.
Yeah.
Well, we ended up breaking the small tire record with her car that was standing for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
481.
I think I remember that one.
We went like 481 at like 148 miles an hour. Took what we did out of it. Not too bad. It's like 5,000 foot DA too. So.
Right. Yeah.
And then I ended up breaking their like limited type class record. I went 507. So then that was really the first time we had really good luck with the big block. And then we came back and went to the river, I think, very shortly after that. Yeah. So September of 18.
Well, you won.
I won the race in
and I runnered up in.
Yeah. Then
we
came back and ran it a couple more times. Then we went to the river, and exactly a year after I crashed the car.
Yeah.
Different motor. The car was faster. Of course, I didn't have a whole lot of confidence, running at the track.
I just wrecked it. Yeah.
But we just went to go test the car, play with some stuff. We figured it'd be first round ducks. We ended up qualifying, I think, like 4th or 5th, something like that. Yeah. And ended up winning the race.
Yeah, there you go. See, I gotta get right back on the pony.
Yeah.
And ride it. Like I said.
So
that's key. So all that's great because now I like all that information, but I want to rewind back now.
When I started
to your car. When did you perk up your car, and how it evolved?
Okay.
One thing I do remember is you kept saying, "Man, this car keeps riding Willie," and you were fighting that for the longest time. I do remember. And this isn't Facebook time too much yet. I think this is
probably not.
I think we're on a forum page. I don't know. Who knows? But
it was the wheelie machine.
The wheelie machine. Yeah.
When I first got it, I bought a Jeep Wagoneer, and Chris hated that thing, so he wanted to sell it. So we were getting ready to sell it, and I drove around the corner to our buddy's house, and we didn't even meet them yet. And there was this '94 Mustang sitting there, flat tires all around, missing a fender. I mean, it hadn't run in like forever, and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's the car!" And Chris is like, "Are you crazy?" He said, "That's a piece of shit." And I was like, "No, I love that car. I love that car." So we made a deal where the guy traded us the Mustang and gave us $500 for the Jeep.
Oh.
So that's the beginning of Rosie. And he hated that car.
So it wasn't running. Was it a roller or had a motor in it? It just wasn't running.
Complete minus one fender.
Okay.
Yeah, but it had a lot of problems.
Yeah. Those cars are a little uncomfortable on the inside compared to the square, the little fox square, knocked back. These ones are a little harder to get into.
Well, because it's so rounded.
It's got a slope,
Yeah.
the roof line.
Kind of like a cockpit or something, but my sister had one.
That was that the first year the SN95?
94.
94, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of did you appeal to it like right away like that's the car I want? Like, obviously you did, right?
I just fell in love with it. I don't know why. Maybe I felt sorry for it. Yeah. I don't. And it was only 5 years old, and somebody had totally trashed his car.
Yeah. Horrible.
Terrible.
It was terrible.
No love.
What's the color of the actual name of that color that car had? I do remember you posting a photo.
It was laser red.
Laser red? Oh, was it? So what was the later color?
That is Panther Pink.
Oh, you got two-tone on it now. Right?
It's Panther Pink with a little bit of blue pearl in it.
Well, it was that
bubblegum
pink.
It was bubblegum pink.
Oh, I remember. That's the one I remember.
It was bubblegum pink.
That was a solid bubblegum pink.
Yeah, that was that way for a while until I wrecked it.
But it was mismatched. It never got painted until it went to the pink. It was it always had a different color hood on it, different color fender on it, and that's how she used to drive it back and forth to the track that way.
With my shoe polish numbers.
Yeah. Got to ride down with the shoe polish.
And I would get pulled over every single time that I came back from San Antonio. Every time.
It wasn't because of speed or anything.
I wasn't speeding or anything. They just saw those numbers, and then they'd see it was a little lady in there.
They think it was street legal or something like that.
No, we ruined it in South Austin. Every Mustang had a number. It wasn't. I mean, here goes what's the name? You get the light. Here goes that.
And it was loud.
So
it used to pick me up from school.
It
was still multicolored. It had had the 331 in it.
Well, it was funny because I didn't never want to race. I always liked being a part of the crew. Yeah. And so we were running brackets at he was running brackets at San Antonio. And one of our friends needed more cars in the street class, and I had our convertible there.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, you know what to do. And I'm like, oh, God, I didn't want to do it. It's so slow. And so we get up there, and I lost. I had a bad light or whatever. And he said, what do you think about it? And I go, it's okay. And he's like, well, what would you change? I go, I'd want to go faster. Yeah, of course. And so that's the beginning of the end. The bug bit you. Yeah. Yeah.
The drag radio.
That's all it takes. But so from that point to Rosie, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's seen a bunch of makeovers.
Oh yeah.
So now, at that time, you're driving on the street, driving to the track, San Antonio, right? San Antonio's right there, right? You guys live in South Austin, right? So,
yeah.
How did you feel like when you go to that point where like we talked about like when you go to this point like, hey, I'm gonna take this car and I'm gonna make it a race car. You're not going back. When was that? Where was that time?
What option did you do to that car?
Where's that point that you can't go back?
It was right after we got it painted the bubblegum pink. Yeah. And I took it to Home Depot, and I parked out at the very end, in like 4 spots or whatever. And I came out, and people were just touching it and, surrounding the car.
Really?
And, and it was so loud that people would try to race me all the time. I can't say that I,
it was a magnet
that I was always a good girl and didn't do anything. But, so I just...
You had the small block in it still? Or?
Yeah, that had the small block in it. Mm-hmm. So, and then we went big block later on.
Was that the point of no return, no street no more?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we were already pushing, driving it to the track with the C4 in there. Yeah. And at 331, that thing was screaming.
Going down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a fine line. Like I said, you gotta okay, the point of no return, as I say, right? Because the car is gonna be. You can always go back, but there's a point where you're like, okay, this is
cost more to go back.
Yeah, it's gonna go forward. This is this is where I'm going. This is what I'm gonna do with it. So when you made that decision, was it like, okay, we can go small tire, or would you still continue bracket racing, or
we bracket raced, and then we tried nitrous on it. And then,
dun, dun,
yeah. And then I started running indexes like the 580 and the 10.0.
Right.
And then I started doing like the Extreme Warrior things at Midnight Madness.
Oh yeah, man.
I do that too.
Man, that's a way back San Antonio.
And then you had all the grudge racing.
Yeah,
I was like a big grudge racer back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, that girl in that pink car, no way. And that's when Dingle said, you know, you could go a lot faster. And I go, but I wouldn't get to race all the time. Right. And he's like, it doesn't matter. Once you go faster, you're not going to want to do this anymore.
That's when it was the wheelie machine.
And then it became the wheelie machine. Mm-hmm. Riding a wheelie all the way down the track.
Right? Nitrous.
Too much gear. The suspension's not right now. What did y'all learn from that?
That was suspension. That was before we knew anything about suspension.
Yeah.
We went from racing 10-second bracket cars to now we put a 250 shot on a big block, and now it's running 870.
Yeah.
So
no progressive.
No progressive.
It was just boom from the
wide open throttle.
We had a whole,
wow, what a kick! I bet you got it.
You just were seeing the stars, you know, and it's like, we'll just keep the steering wheel straight.
We bought old NOS plate from.
It was a Top Gun one.
First one was Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Top Gun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you didn't go from a 75 shot or a little 125. Just here's the button. You hit it. And
it's probably right on the
it was all the stuff out of my car.
Yeah. So it was all second hand.
Well,
I pulled
still works.
I pulled everything out of my car and put it into the pink car when we decided we wanted to go faster.
Yeah.
And I had already had all the nitro stuff on there from running Little Pooch.
Yeah, Little Pooch.
Yeah, and so all that stuff went in there, and then just started progressing it. Every time we had something, better heads, better intakes, better carbs. And
we did a lot of things during that time. That was when I
then we started stroking them. We started out with 466, and then we started stroking
going bigger. I think it was like a 535, 532.
So did it go kind of like I fixed the wheelie and then the wheelie comes back with the little minor, some changes?
Well, the wheelie didn't come back for a long time after we started figuring out suspension.
Yeah.
But
what year was it that we swapped from 580 bridge race test and tuner to?
That was I won the championship at San Antonio in 580, and then I was bracket racing it, and I went bracket racing by myself. Wow. Which was a big mistake. No nitrous or anything. I'm like, what could happen?
So you find out you need a crew.
Somebody oiled the track in front of me,
and
I didn't see it, and so I smacked the wall. So that was the end of the bubblegum pink. So
what year was that?
That was 2007.
7, okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is San Antonio was going strong back then, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
then it went to the pink and black it is now. But then when did we say screw 580? We're going fast.
Yeah.
It was running ugly for a while because I ran 580. The rest kept running 580 when I was driving ugly, and then I think it was like a year after I was like, screw this, we're going fast.
Well, I don't even remember what exactly got us into 10.5. I think it was finally talking to all the Punisher guys. We're just like,
it had to be because I was on Syntex hot rods and
Randy and all that. Yeah, that was big back then. So this was like, well, I don't know. It may have been about 07, I guess. Syntex was around for I want to say
they stayed around for a long time.
03 and then
quiet, but it was there.
But so those guys and Greg touched on it. They were doing the FSTA, right?
Those guys
Factory
went on
Street.
to that.
Yeah, the factory sheet stuff, which was about 05, 04, 05, 06, something like that. And then, so when did you guys? Yeah, when did you guys start doing like a true 10.5?
2011, I think it was, and that's when we decided to do the Rumble,
right?
Because there were a lot of people that didn't have anywhere to run. I mean, if you weren't, that was the when X275, the radial stuff was so big, and then you have all these guys who have these cars.
They're just sitting there, they can't run nowhere, and I a lot of people talk about it, and that's why we all got into it, because our cars in the rules, because there are like old true 10.5 rules, right?
Well, and Factory Street,
and
it was a mix.
Yeah, so okay, so that was
very similar rules,
and like there's a lot. To your point, there's a lot of cars that fitted that, and it was popular. It was. I mean,
we had full car counts.
I know all the time. It was at least 16 or more at any given time.
But the fans.
Man.
Yeah, we'd have
they ran the first one.
You had to run it by itself at one time. I know it at a few times, but then they piggybacked it off the bracket, which is okay. Car count. I mean, the fans were. Let's pants
It
were
was.
stacked.
Yeah, there was nowhere to park. They ran out of food at the concession stand.
No, it was.
Yeah, it was
So,
cool.
because I remember I went to a few of them. I wasn't too much into following it, and I was out. I was been on the street side of it, and it died out. And I'm like, I guess I'll go to the track. But it was really packed. I do remember that. How were they just that class that you're in? Were they running it heads up or?
Oh, it was heads up.
Yeah,
it was heads up.
Oh, see, that's why we had.
Well, so there was the rules. The rules in class racing, like I said, class racing. Yeah. It kept it there. I mean,
it was
everybody was there.
racing.
Everybody was there. I mean, I'll just say an example. I was the slowest car there one time, and I went to the final.
Well, Nick.
So it was 30. I was running 30, like 29s, 30s, and I went to the final.
Nick ran 50s one time and ended up winning it.
Wow.
So that's why it was so damn good. It wasn't like there was some people. Randy, 507. What was the record?
So in Texas,
wasn't it?
The record was like 507 for the longest time.
Like with the 7 or something like that. Or
but I think at OTT5 when he went to Tulsa, he was the man with the target on his back because he went like a 501.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we started doing that too as OTT5 and driving to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I remember some of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never attended, but yeah, there was. It piggybacked off it.
What kind of slowed down the? What kind of? I don't want to say killed it, but what kind of really put the brakes on that event? What came around that everybody just started fading off and going into
ownership?
Yeah.
Well, that was one. But do you think it was a tire? Do you think it was a tire that messed up?
No, it was 100% ownership because when Kurt quit,
Kurt, man,
he was very much into that kind of racing, and he liked it.
He dedicated,
he
man.
Put a lot out. He did a lot of advertising for it.
Yeah, and Tommy passing away too was a big thing too. When Tommy Freeman,
the starter guy. Yeah.
When Kurt sold the place, we never.
Wasn't that around the same time that the little tornado kind of twisted up the place a little bit?
No, that was way earlier. That's when it took out the cross.
Okay, but the event was still going on since back then.
Yeah,
because I remember it being carrying over.
Dude, I remember that was just an event you always.
You just go to it, right?
You always look forward to going. I mean, it was strong until like 16, 17.
Yeah, we started. We started migrating to radial stuff. So we ran radials for the first time out at Little River.
What got you to go? What got you to go to radial?
First time
was it Thunder Valley?
Running in 2013.
But y'all did run third. Y'all did run radial at Little River at one time.
Yeah,
it wasn't the first time.
What got you guys to go into the radial, or what got you to just move towards?
Well, you hear about how we were going through so many sets of slicks.
Yeah.
The story goes.
They're faster.
We were in Oklahoma. And
I love this story.
Let's hear it.
Tell the name too.
So we were in Oklahoma, and it was an OTT5 race or one of those, and all the regulars were up there, and this guy shows up in this black Firebird, and he's got a radio on his car, and everybody's looking at him, and we're like, what in the world is this guy doing? We barely get down with slicks, and he's got this radial tire on there, and he goes out there and busts off like a 490 or something, and all of us are still running 520s, 510s, 510s, and it piqued my interest, and so I started checking it out, and the next thing you notice is that he's got fuel injection on the car. And I'm looking at that. He's got no radiator. You could walk up there and change the timing on the cam. And nothing in the way.
Oh, boy, you got jealous.
He's got everything going on.
He just seemed so crazy.
Yeah.
And I talked to him a little bit. Didn't really know him at that point. Didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And then it goes on, and we were really wanting to change because we were getting tired of what we were doing. And I ended up asking Billy Stockland. I said, I want to change the car up. I'm looking at doing radials, and I don't know exactly what I need to do.
Right.
So he actually came out to the shop, got into the car with me, and he just starts pointing, telling me a couple things we need to do. And he goes, I don't have time to really help you too much on this, but I got a guy that if you want to run radials, this is the guy you need to talk to. So he sends me Bob Bale's number from Oklahoma, and I call him up, and
that's the guy with the Firebird, right?
Yep, the Black Firebird.
Here's the recipe.
And I started talking to him and about doing EFI and about doing radials, and that's where it all started.
They came out and spent a weekend with us at the track.
He built our first harness, our first Holly harness, and it was basically you just put it in the car and hook it up, and it worked. And then he came out and did a bass tune at Temple, and we ran all day long just messing around with it, and that's where it started.
So would you say that EFI and a radial tire almost kind of go hand in hand to tune the tires?
Once I had EFI, I never understood why I even had a carburetor. I mean, it's day and night. You know, there's no cranking and pumping the gas to get that thing to start. It fires right up.
Maybe like 2 revolutions, and it just pop right off.
A little lower.
Yeah. So what year was that? Was that
2013?
Really? Wow.
Yes, we've been on a radial since 2013.
Yeah, once we put him on there and raced it. Thunder Valley.
Yeah.
She drove out about an 80-foot wheelie and went the fastest we'd ever gone on like the second or third pass that we were there, and that was the last time the car's ever had a slick on it.
2-speed or 3-speed or what?
It was 2-speed then.
2-speed.
Yeah, now we're running a close ratio 3-speed.
Yeah,
which is the answer for a lot of things.
Oh, let me tell you,
that helps make the car
except
more
for those
consistent.
shifters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so you guys leaving in a high gear ratio, it smooths out the launch.
Yeah, we're running
150 or something. 140.
I think it's actually a 140 something. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it calms the car down and enables you to put a lot more power down.
And you get more mid-track.
Yeah. So you're shifting it early, so you don't have to worry about wheeling. It's a lot.
Drives out of it.
Which make radial were you running back then?
The Pro.
The original.
Yeah.
The original.
The BF.
It wasn't the treaded ones. It was.
It must have been right when the Pro came out.
I think it was the beginning of the Pro.
It was the first version of the Pro, I think, right?
Yeah, because they had the old like ET Street R or whatever, the ones that had the tread on the side and the 2 lines in the middle, but then the Pro came out.
Those are on the
Mustang.
Mustang.
That changed everything. Yeah,
those are on the white car.
So 2013, but here's the thing that's appreciated, that the Rumble was still going on and they were still supporting it.
Yeah.
Even though they weren't running it.
Yeah.
You got your car with radio, so you guys are still putting it on. Which
I just
thought that's where you know that when the owner whatever change flipped over.
We ran it with radio.
Yeah, I know y'all ran a few times, but I mean y'all didn't run it as often as y'all did before.
Well, in like 2015,
but you were still putting up the sponsoring the race
when we separated ourselves from it.
I thought y'all had y'all just went a little. I thought y'all just went professional, a little faster. Maybe I was thinking maybe the track was no longer gonna fit your car in there.
Well, it was just dealing with running a race. You know, you can't make everybody happy, and you know there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and that was all of my sponsor money that I was using to pay the winner. Right. So all that money I could now put into my car. And I said, please try to run it, you know, and they tried to.
Yeah, they tried to. It came down to, the same old payout, whatever. It fondled after the flip of the owner. So, like I said, appreciate that. But like I said, so y'all guys been to Georgia. You guys were running in the X Class for a number of years. Yeah. So, what was the fastest time in X that you guys put down? TV. Was it 40?
4:38.
38. Okay. So that's flying. Oh, yeah. And granted, I'm assuming you guys are probably still on the heavy side. Compared to some of the other cars in X.
We were 150 pounds over.
Yeah. We'd show up to a race and they take weight off, and it's like I can't lose any more weight out of the car.
Well, it's like NHRA. NHRA is like, oh, we're gonna change the rules today. But anyway, so.
Yeah, and then then they started allowing these huge motors, and we can't do that with what we have. I can't go any bigger. Yeah. So we decided to try limited.
Limited, right?
And slow it down a little bit. And we thought maybe we'd get away from.
Were y'all riding that weight of limited, or were y'all still over?
We had to add 400 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, we got the car down to 2850 or 2840, something like that. But then the weights had got down to 2700 for big block nitrous.
For big block nitrous.
Yeah, and the S95. I'm not going to say you can't get it down that light, but we were going to have to do
some
extreme dieting.
And we had just done a whole bunch of carbon fiber work. I mean, just to
to
get down, to get down good in our weight range. I think we were maybe 20 under or something like that. We
and that's the thing to our audience, because again, our audiences are not necessarily savvy on racing. So when we start explaining weight, just like horsepower, to get that other 100, it's whatever it's like 1,000, whatever.
They say 100 pounds.
Every 100. It's
when
10,
you're slower, but
so
faster you go, it doesn't.
So just like with weight reduction, it costs money to put your car on diet. It's not like you can just, hey, we're gonna go do this. So it's a lot of work. It's not like you can just go and, hey, I'm gonna go shave some stuff here. It's a lot. It's money, just like getting horsepower. So yeah, so it's the same thing. So a lot of people out there trying to understand. So, but you guys fit limited now. How long did you guys run limited?
We ran 4 races this year, and then we had we knew something wasn't quite right with it, so we decided to just take it apart and check it out.
Or your engine?
Yeah, and do some adjustments to get a little bit more horsepower out of the motor. And
we had done all the work to make it faster with the big jet.
Now we had
that doesn't work with the small jet, so we were in the process of changing that up, and then the new rules came out.
Yeah. Didn't
that affect quite a bit of people when those new rules came out? I mean, it kind of came out towards the end, and a lot of guys had already prepared to enter something.
They just came out.
Yeah, there was a change last year before this year, and it wasn't that bad, but it definitely opened it up for some faster cars to get in there, and then so that lost some cars already,
right?
And then this year, the end of this year, they just came out with a brand new package, and
they've turned it into an index class.
Well, there's two. It's
index
two
and
different
nitrous class.
Yeah, there's 2 different classes.
So it's like a small block nitrous or something, or is it like
no?
There's no nitrous.
There's no cubic inch limit, and they're allowed in back half cars. So
in a small jet.
Yeah, my 588 on a 38 jet is not going to run what an 800 cubic inch motor is on a 38 jet. So no, it's.
I mean, not only there's. I'm sure I've seen some of the comments on Facebook that there was a lot of people not happy. So people put a lot of money in the program and they get prepared for this. Now they got to go back and
what's the weight?
Program.
What's the weight on? Do they have a weight limit?
I think it was like 3175 or something like that.
Yeah, 3,200 pounds with a tall deck motor with a 30, either a 114 or a 38
and
jet.
I hope it goes well for them. Yeah. It's just not something that I want to do, and I don't want to run indexes anymore. We considered it,
right?
And like I told you earlier that index racing is sandbagging. That's what I ran it for a long time. That's exactly what it is.
That's the way I saw it.
Yeah, we know it. Yeah.
And you can't slam on your brakes in a 4-something car. So I was just thinking, if I pop my parachute early and it's in somebody's face, somebody's gonna get mad. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna run as fast as I can.
I mean, that's the thing. Index is a game. I mean, people play the game. You see your people run at the track, so that's a good point.
And here's my thing, because we've gotten. I think we just about interviewed everybody that runs in every type of track or every type of condition, and it's when stuff like that happens that these guys, not just you guys, but these guys get forced back to an event that now it's all about your driving. It's no more about how much you got in your car. Now you're going to an event that has a looser track, and it kind of puts you in the same playing field, kind of like, oh, I got a pro mod next to me. Well, good luck putting traction down, and it kind of kills it because you were doing something that you like. But all of a sudden, some rules kind of throw you out of it. Sometimes it's because you can't afford that high dollar big block that everybody's now wanting to do. So what do? Where do you fall back to? So that's my question to you. So what's open to you now to enjoy your racing again now?
Yeah, we just having fun, not worrying about it, just go right and run as fast as you can.
Well, but there's
Small
different
tire, no
classes all
time.
over.
Well, yeah, there you go.
We could put glass back in it, run all steel or glass, or mostly steel, mostly glass.
Yeah.
Because they'll allow the Lexan in the front and the back. And
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, with some of the stuff that we're improving on it, we could be competitive in small tire, no time.
Yeah,
Of course, yeah.
And you never know. It's
The thing is, like I said, that's what's big now, and XRP, great facility. I mean, those guys do some good stuff, good races, good promotions,
great track.
And here's the other thing. Here's the other thing is that on top of like the limited and X radio class, but these classes, there's something going on every week. There's racing and their pots are pretty damn good.
Big,
So
it's tempting, right?
that is a drawing a big crowd, and I've said it before, wherever I get in, I'll fit in, right? Then I'll try to jump in somewhere because I've said it before. Class racing is kind of. I hope it comes back. But
the constantly changing the rules thing.
Well, that's the thing we talked about earlier. Yeah,
that's what's killing it. That's
gonna.
always killing
we
it.
don't have a spare motor.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a spare motor that we can send off to get changed.
And that is the downfall. That is the downfall. Class racing, there's too many changes or something, right? There's something that's detrimental to a program or to what you plan on doing. I'm building this car for this, and then you get all the way to the end, you're 99% done, and all of a sudden, bam, they change rules. Like, okay, now what am I going to do? Yeah, what are we going to do?
And sometimes it was every race.
Oh yeah, there was a point running some of the radio stuff that we were taking the car apart every couple of months.
Yeah, see, that's
to rebuild the full motor out,
and
take weight out of the car, or move stuff around, or we got to get the longer shock so we could,
And then it's no fun.
Yeah, it's not fun anymore.
Then it's no fun. Yeah, no, it's no fun. Yeah, exactly. That's no fun. So I enjoy. So do you plan on keeping the radios on, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't want to go back to a slick, and I know that there's a lot of talk about that.
No, yeah.
But it's putting. I understand the prep can be less, but then you put the cost onto the racer. Yeah. Because those slicks don't last long.
No.
Well,
not like a radio. Radio, you can get a little bit more out of. Maybe not quite as much, but you can get a little bit more out of radio.
Well, I get like 15 out of a set. I get like 45 out of a pair of radios.
Well, it's like one of the racers. They said, "Look, it's all about you. It's all about you tuning the car. Get away from, step back from that keyboard, man, and actually get to your car and tune it for that track that you're going to go race on. Because if you can always take out some power in the car, it'll adjust. But I guess the classic way of what everybody used to do back then is before computers, before all this,
Suspension's come a long way. Like if you go back and look at shocks from 10 years ago or 20 years ago to now, like it evolved. You can just do a couple clicks on shock, click. Oh, yeah, we're ready. We're doing something.
You can go to an unexpected
change a bar
track.
Or something.
Yeah, you can go to an unexpected track now, and now you can make a little click on the shocks or little degrees.
There's only so much you can do because, and I'll just give an example. I mean, the Little River is going to hold so much.
Right.
It's only going to be so tight. It's never going to be a radio track. Maybe.
You can run one on there, but you got to pull it way back.
Yeah, like I said, you're not going to break no record. But you can get down. I've seen people get down, but you're not going to be no.
Well, when I won the Rumble out there, I was on a 275.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody,
I think
Trey and maybe one other person.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Trey had some numbers. That was pretty much run some sub. You guys run some sub 5s there, so.
Yeah, I went 5.0 with the 275 on it.
Okay, but like I said.
Now, what's it like on the top end, slowing down?
Yeah.
You gotta pull your shit.
Yeah.
You gotta do something there.
I'm used to some of those tracks. You don't have to pull your shit.
Yeah. All right. Just let it coast to it. Then
Yeah.
So XRP, man, you can lay it all down. Ennis,
Ennis has miles.
Ennis got a lot of shit down, but they begin to prep down. But that's the thing. You got to prep it. You got to drag it after every so many passes, and that's what it seems like. A lot of the promoters and a lot of the people running events now, they don't want to do that. So I've heard, it's not a theory, it's just kind of.
So does the glue price go on to the promoter, or is it all on the track?
It depends, whatever they work out. I have no idea. It can be on the promoter, it can be on the track. However they work out their deal, I don't know. But
when you put our car on a slick, it's going to be way slower, and it's not going to be any better because they did that. recently they ran slick cars, the
With
radio
the radios,
cars
yep,
on
with
slicks
mhm.
out in.
Isn't that
It was
NMCA.
And,
oh, really?
Yeah, Ron Rhodes runs.
Oh, I seen that. He was like
4 teens,
420s,
and he ran. I think the fastest he could go on a slick was 460.
Yeah, I did see that.
Something.
Now, did after that event, did they squash all that, or was it just because the
they're
NMCA?
Still doing it a couple times.
Okay.
They're still doing it.
But
I did see that.
The guys that know how to do it
could
could get it faster, and he's since then on a slick gone
he could figure it
faster,
out.
but it's not. It's not an equal thing.
Of course.
And anyone who's run a slick and run a radial,
they know.
There's no comparison. The car is way more stable.
Yeah, top end, it's
everything
just,
is.
Once I ran on one, had to pass. I never wanted to put it back on my tire. There's no washing out of the ass on the big end.
I grew up. I was telling him, I said, a long time ago, some of these tires came out. I was just fortunate that I fell in that era where everybody who was already into drag racing, it was always a 28, 10.5, and the thin slick. And when these drag racers came out, they were sitting in a super shop, but nobody was touching them. They were just sitting there, like, I don't know, man, I don't know. I said, you know what? I'm gonna take them. Go put them on my wheels, and I put them on, and I know that feeling. Once you put those on, you're like, I'm never gonna go back to it.
It's so stable.
Yeah.
I mean,
we've seen lots of people go still really fast the radio on the slick tire.
Yeah.
Slick prep. Several of the guys out at I think a lot of those guys have been real fast at Little River with the clocks off.
Right.
On radio.
Of course, yeah.
So,
well, like I know Trey was one of them, and there's a few other guys that.
Well, Shortridge had the record there for a long time, didn't he? On a radio.
And then you go look at Casey.
Yeah,
Casey. He's radio. He's flying. So the track it can be there, but like I said, it's just a matter of prepping it. They must have caught it the right prep because you gotta keep that track pretty prepped. So when you come down and you think like you run a slick and a radio together, it's gonna be it's gonna be a tuning game. It's gonna be a tuning game at that point.
Yeah, especially when you're sitting on one line and your opponent here got his car pretty dialed in on a slick, and you're good on the radio, but how's the track gonna treat him versus treat you? You know what I mean? Who's gonna?
Well, the good thing about a radio though is you can pull a lot of power out without pulling it down.
Yeah, it's gonna dead hook so hard.
So that's the one thing. I mean, you could be real fast even still on just a regular slick prep. Like even if it's not super tight, you can still go. I mean, if you could hang with the slick to the 60 foot, you're gonna drive away from it. So that's really gonna be the thing. If you're gonna have more slick stuff, that's fine. But I think radio should still probably be.
No, yeah, it's superior. Let me ask you this, because this is a question we asked. With racing and the future racing, where do you see being? I'm not saying this is the demise of any chance of racing in general, but you got Ducks race, all the X class radio classes. You got what's going on up here in Texas, the No Time, the Grudge. Where do you see racing here? I'm not gonna say any timeline, but where do you see it being in the future? Like, do you see it getting better? Are you seeing it getting
two different?
Is it going to be this? Because there's the other thing too that they're talking about. The radios are so hard to get now, just because of whatever supply chain. That everybody's going to be going slick. And I don't know. Maybe you got to stockpile of radios. I don't know. But,
somebody got.
So I'll let you answer. I'll let you answer, and then I'll get into another thing about the reincarnation of the Rumble, if you will. That's going to be coming up. Talking about.
It changes so often. And you never know what's going to happen in the future. Like my car is not going to be done till next year because of supply chain issues. Right. Waiting on rocker arms.
Yep.
But I don't know. I know that the slick deal is going on, but I have a feeling that a lot of radio guys aren't going to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But like I said, like the Syntex guys are in this area. The guys with radios. We said it. They're in a class in their own.
Yeah.
They're limited. Where they running 50s now? 450s limited?
Well, it won't be anymore.
It was.
Well,
they were running 50s.
They were running 50s.
So,
but
I mean,
that was only during the really good conditions. Otherwise, they were in
60s. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So, what do you feel? I'm gonna ask you, Chris. What do you think the future racing is going to hold here in the next year? And I'm gonna ask a different question. Locally, what do you think locally is going to be?
The future of it for us is going to be just more having fun than worrying about anything else.
Going out of town or staying local?
Well, we have to go out of town most of the time.
There's going to be a lot of local stuff, and it's going to be slower stuff.
Right.
I mean, we're starting to work on some an index car to play with, a street car, something to go play when there's nothing else to do. Get some seat
time too. Get some seat time play.
It's just having fun.
Yeah.
It's not any fun doing a lot of this anymore because it is. If we're running at 10, 11, 12, 3 o'clock in the morning because we have to run on a cool track. Well, and it's too hot even to run. I don't care what tire you're on.
Slick,
this year was so hot. It wasn't fun.
The last race in June was horrible. It was so hot.
It was not
You're not even going to get spectators to go out there. So hot,
it was still like 98 degrees when we started running.
And that's when the sun went down.
10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. But I mean, even like some drag and drive events. We're thinking about maybe doing something like that. The Rocky Mountain Race Week.
Oh yeah,
drag week. Yeah, man. That's.
So here's my point. I know I kind of got dodged around, but basically what's happening here, not just with you guys, but everybody around, you're having to build another park. You're not the first people to say it. There's been everybody.
We're always building another car.
But you're talking about a car that you're now having to tone down to be able to enjoy it, to do the Rocky Mountain type of racing. Because
this is a different car. Yeah, totally.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It kind of forces you into building something that puts you more in the category of it's really fast, but now we can.
You guys are still going to be doing. Y'all going to campaign all of them, right? Doesn't matter what, right? You're going to do everything. So
the plan is to go as fast as we can with whatever we have, and
get in where you fit in, right? Whatever class.
Yeah,
right?
I just go test somewhere and make hits. I mean, seriously, Yeah.
So Chris, your car, right? You got a car. Let's just go into a little bit with your car, what you have, and the same question goes to you. What do you see in the future of racing, and what do you plan on doing? Steven, yeah. What did I say?
Chris.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I told you they're
my eyes are, Steve, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
So, go ahead. Same question applies.
Well, so the blue car we ran in limited for several years, and then it moved to X, swapped into fuel injection, the big block. Then we started tearing stuff up. So we kind of went back to the drawing board, especially after it hit the wall at XRP last year. Trying to figure out what the game plan was. It was going to be to put it back in limited, hop it up a little bit, change gears, some other stuff. But I don't know. We kind of changed our mind when they started, releasing the new rules. We were going to focus on the peak car, but we're actually going to put a different motor in it, and try to run some mid to low 5-second stuff, and probably bring it back to the river.
That's where all the fun is at. That's where all the street cars.
But we did miss it.
When they jump in there, that's where they show up, and that's where all that money's at anyway. So might as well tune the car for that, right?
So like kind of go back to the the resurrection, if you will, of the I guess you're calling it Rumble. So it's gonna be similar to the Rumble at the river, from what I understand and from what I've seen.
Yeah.
So that's something that you plan on running. Would you guys plan on running as well?
Steven will run it.
Yeah.
We're going to take all the weight out of it.
Yeah, we're trying to go real fast.
I want to put a 20 on the board.
I've said it. I've said it on other episodes. That's what everybody's doing. They're putting more power in a lightweight car. I mean, that's what everybody's doing. So,
well, we added all that weight for limited, and now it's time to take it all
Take
off.
it back off, yeah. You already have the carbon there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. Like I said, I wanted to touch base on that Rumble because I know you guys were the one that brought it to Little River. And, if you go look at some of the early history of the 210.5, FSDA, and the OT, open, that's kind of where it all kind of evolved from. But you guys brought it to the local guys here. And, yeah, it used to be a good turnout. So, maybe this something will morph into something bigger. I don't know. I guess you're trawling it out.
And I guess one thing that's different is that y'all are nitrous people or nitrous powered
Well,
car.
yeah.
So we're talking to the nitrous people here. You get 3 guys that talk turbo, it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But with you guys,
Big block Ford nitrous.
yeah,
Yeah,
so you guys
which
are
is
nitrous
totally
powered.
different.
Yeah. No, it's a different animal.
Yeah.
It is a different animal. So that's a good point because back in when we did it, 10 years ago, 2012, the Rumble is what it was. Majority was all nitrous. I mean, there was some rules that restricted some of the. I don't know if it had turbos. I don't know. I really didn't give a shit. I didn't look at it. I was all my nitrous.
There were some.
There was a few, right?
Turbo cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There were a couple.
But now, if you look at from 10 years to now, everybody and their mama got turbos now. So everybody got turbo cars now.
Yep.
So now that, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be a factor in anybody because again, you still got to tune the track and whatever. But it's going to be fun, and
not saying that we won't venture outside of our nitrous bubble.
There it is. That's all.
But it will not be turbos.
I got you.
We'll just put it this way: the blue car will have a very. It'll have a different combination.
Gotcha.
Different from what we
That's
run.
all right. Hey,
Everybody's building a car to fit this new stuff.
But it's not going to be. It's not going to be the cookie cutter LS single turbo.
We're trying to
It will
make
be
things
Ford
a little
powered and it will
easier.
be different.
Oh, there was a guy here. He was complete Ford. His dad was Ford, and I can almost put 100% down my hand on the Bible that if you brought that guy with an old Boss 302, with those old heads,
he'd be all on it. Yeah.
He would probably embarrass people with that old head, because this dude, what he had discussed about it, y'all hear it on this podcast. It'll make people think that people from the Chevy crowd say, "Damn, they could do that with the little video 302 and those old heads."
Yeah.
So
And we're talking about stuff. This is a good episode.
Yeah.
It's a future episode. If you look at it. It was a guy they were from the 60s and 70s, and they're having a small block Ford zinging up 11,000 RPM, 10,000, and this is NHRA comp stuff. And, and what they're doing, and it was with the 750 CFM carburetor too.
Yeah, almost 3 horsepower.
Yeah, it was like 300 horsepower per cubic inch. It was like crazy, and this is like back in the 70s, 60s, 70s. So it was like, anyway. So, Ford guys, you guys appreciate it. So,
listen to that one.
Yeah, listen to that one. So, everything else, you guys, everybody knows your guys' name, and everybody knows your cars. So, I think everybody's gonna enjoy this one too. But anything else you guys want to add? Maybe some things you might want now to share, or just
We've got a couple of new adventures coming up into 2023, and look for our little street car.
Nice.
Yeah, our little street car, Miss Victoria.
Oh yeah, is that a late model car? Is that
it's a 2014?
2014, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's gonna be. Is that the one that's gonna be the streets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They've already taken it out, and I haven't raced it yet, but both of them have.
What's the power out of toy?
It just got a Pro Charger on it.
Yeah. D1X.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that's like the new nitrous now. Everybody's Pro Charge, man. So I mean,
well, it's like
easier.
It was
it's
an easy
power.
installation,
Yeah.
and and it fits under the stock hood and everything. It's crazy, and you don't have to have a cage.
Whoa.
You can go 580.
Yeah, it's crazy. 585, I think, is the
Yeah.
ET brake.
Really?
Before you have to have a cage in a 2014.
Is this NHRA? Or
Yeah.
what?
Mm-hmm.
I think I have seen it. Somebody was making fun of that rule. It's like, that's crazy.
And
It
we're keeping stock exhaust on it for right
Yeah.
now. And,
Is it because of the exoskeleton of the body? I mean,
I guess they're figuring the airbags will protect you, but it's BS. I don't know why they're allowing it because
I think they
the
just want the younger crowd to show up.
they want
to
these cars to come out.
There's
I
a lot
guess
of people
that's
that there's a lot of
It's,
It's
it's easy to
That
make
makes
them go
sense.
that fast too.
yeah, both on.
Doesn't take much.
Yeah.
The Pro Charger on it.
Oh,
I know, right?
There was a guy somewhere. He met on TikTok, and it was a Cobra, and the guy he didn't have the roll cage or nothing in it. He had to shoot. He had the drag race brakes, the whole darn thing, because this thing is running. I think I may be wrong, but I think he was tagging high 7, and it was a street car.
Isn't that the one you were telling me about?
Well, there's a lot of street coyotes that are running 7s.
Yeah, these cars are different. They didn't have
Well, the
street
bolt-on,
cars.
they're made for bolt-on.
Yeah.
They're made for power adders.
But when you see these guys go to a track and then they start bringing in those times, you're like, Am I really competing with that street car? I mean, it's like I have a car I can barely get into, and that dude's about to whoop me and then go get ice cream and come back.
I want to pull up. I want to drive to the track with my AC on.
Exactly.
You know,
Some
my
of these guys
stereo
are
on.
doing that.
Yeah. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think NHRH is trying to bring a new
the younger crowd.
in.
I've asked it over and over. There's been a bunch of younger kids that are like 25 and younger that are bringing in these like let's say one of the new SS Camaros or something, and they're bolting on superchargers. But a lot of them don't know how to get into the drag racing aspect of what we do, just because it's not really in their face anymore. So they're kind of on the street, kind of getting little by little they get their feet wet. But I think they shy away from going to the tree and getting embarrassed because they don't know how to take off, And I guess NHRA and my question was, to some of these events, what are you guys going to do to these guys to bring these guys to go to the track? Because if not, it's going to kill the sport that we all love,
I remember when they used to have like the high school drags.
Yeah, they don't do that.
I remember San Antonio was real big about doing
that. They
should
be going to the schools and to the auto shop.
Get people off the track. I mean, off the streets. Off the streets and get them off the track.
Because all the fast cars are in the guys in the auto shop.
Yeah, of course you got. Now you got the damn, the
Hellcats.
The Hellcats. The high school here in Round Rock. Drive to the parking lot. You're gonna be like, God damn, that kid's driving that car. That's a 9-second car. What is he? And then you go further down.
Audis and BMWs, and it's like
the ZL1. What do you call it? This with the big, What is that doing in the parking lot?
I had a Duster.
Yeah. I had an Harrison cam. I thought I was bad.
Well, it's funny. We were talking the other day. How you used to have a 500-600 horsepower street car.
Ain't shit nowadays.
Yeah, but I just remember when I was a kid, it was like we'd go watch the street races or whatever, and somebody have a supercharged 5.0, box body. You'd be like, oh man, that thing's fast. But it made like 500 horsepower.
Yeah.
Now you make 500 horsepour. It's like, oh, you drive a minivan. Like, what is that?
I mean, we're shooting for like 700, 800 in the street car.
800 now.
Yeah, but like if you make it 4 figures,
you're not gonna. You're gonna have fun.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna live. You're gonna leave with a big grin and saying, "I got to race that one guy that smoked me." But I think quote me wrong here, but what do you think? 1,200, 1,400 is the normal right now for a street event.
Yeah.
But it was put it to the track. I don't know, but that's what's showing up. Because that's what you can obtain at some.
Well, we were at a race. And we were talking to Michael Hollis.
Yeah.
And we were joking about the Rumble days. But he was doing the Rumble. He was pretty young.
Yeah, old student driver there.
He's like, man, he's like, I remember when we used to, run a, high 120s, low 130, 60 foots. Like, oh, you're hauling ass, whatever. Yeah. But so now if we go
teens, man.
If we go slower to teen, what the hell's wrong with this fucking car?
I mean, it goes slower than a 111, 110. You're like, we're used to running 1.0s,
We took my car out first time with the weight in it, limited trim. It went 113.
We went 103 in mine.
103.1, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where you at? Where'd you last see?
I mean, I was on the slick. 118 is the best I caught on my car.
It's really good on the slick, though.
Yeah, I mean,
But I mean,
but now, like
we're normally 1.0s.
Yeah, the comparison on radio cars. Yeah, those guys. If you watch them, they
jump up.
Yeah, the suspension works. You're not lifting the front and you're not tripping the 60 with your back tires.
And you can have just a little skim of that little tire. The tire just barely skim, and I've seen my car down the track, and it's like, oh, look at that.
I'm driving. I'm three-wheeling.
Three-wheeling. Barely touching.
Yeah. Like I said, I said it earlier. Like 10 years, the difference between suspension parts, everything you have available at your access to you now, it's top line. And you got to have it. If you want to go fast, you got to have it.
We're gonna interview a shot guy.
Yep, the shot guy. And I asked him on the phone. I said, "What are the
that's a product that we have.
That's our that was our secret weapon.
We're gonna talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's gonna be on Sunday.
He made my eyebrows just like, what? He's like, oh yeah, he goes, don't quote me. He goes, but this is what some of the class guys are doing. And I was like, they're doing that kind of work under the suspension. Like, he goes, yeah, that's how they're getting down. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to ask him what is going on in the world of shops.
Learning about suspension is like that's what's helped us get where we are, and we're not even done yet.
Yeah.
Well, I love all the info because it's a lot of people who don't know out there, right? That people have programs like Michelle and Chris and Steven that there's a lot of work that takes place. You got to do a lot of testing, a lot of seat time, but you guys did it, and like I said, that's what it takes. A good program, that's what it takes to win. So a lot of people out there, always guys, feel free to look up Michelle, her car. Everything's probably on your page. And so I'm sure everybody's gonna be looking forward to seeing you guys out soon, as we are. Because like myself, I've been in hiatus for so long. I'm ready to come out too. So maybe we'll see each other on the track. Yeah.
Can I give a shout out to
of course,
some people
absolutely.
that help us out? Number one, Allies Automotive.
Of course.
Our shop.
Yeah, shout out. Of course. Yeah, get the plug in. Yeah.
Of
course.
Bob Bales, Bobby Badass with Race Systems Inc. He's been helping us since day one.
Awesome.
Greg Spreen Racing Engines.
He's
learned how. He's out of Bernie.
Okay.
He has learned how to deal with the problems of a big block Ford. Greg Hubble Race Cars in San Antonio. He's always been helping us. Dave with. Oh yeah, he's built it many times. Dave with Performance Transmissions.
Okay.
They came and found us in Georgia. And just, nice. my transmission is personalized. It's engraved with the name Rosie on it. They sent it to us that way. How cool is that, right?
You can't beat that. Where are they out of?
They are in Illinois. Yeah.
Okay,
in
awesome. There you go.
And then Ron Galbraith with Afterworks used to be with Santufs.
Okay.
He's the one that hooked us up with Santufs. Yancey with Viscous Performance.
Viscous Shocks.
Yep. And then Dave Vassar. Nitrous Outlet, one of our newest sponsors, and he is amazing.
Yeah, Dave.
No,
like I said, we everybody touch base on him.
Customer services.
He's just the coolest. Yeah.
Steps above.
Yeah, and then my boss, Caleb Wheeler with Syntex Decks. He's our latest one. So,
awesome, awesome, great. I love to get those plugs. That's what we're gonna start doing. Appreciate that. And guys, again, I want to thank you guys for coming out and. And it might even be something where we might ask you guys back if you're willing to come back at a later time. We could probably talk forever.
Oh, I know.
We could probably talk forever, just like we all do, right? So it might be something we might be asking you guys back because we do like to keep it a little short because we've got a certain bandwidth on our
it's a
and plus it's during the week. We all got to work tomorrow. So, but again, I appreciate it.
Well, the one thing is. We want to keep you guys coming back, especially after you go to an event. We want to hear all about it. We want to know what you went through, and just keep the fans that been watching you, that have never heard you talk. They've seen you on TV before, but now hoping with this, people can get an idea as the personality.
Of course, and like they get personalized, know a little bit about you from Illinois,
Hope you guys come back every single time.
Yeah.
And that's
Thanks for having us.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate
we'll
it,
be
guys.
talking to you about new T-shirts.
There we go.
That's cool. All right, guys. So like I said, appreciate you guys coming out, and you guys have a good night. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Peace out.
Thank you.
And also, I want to give a huge shout out to John McGinn, our crew guy. He drives from Houston to wherever we are and works really hard, and we appreciate it.
Dedicated. That's good.
Where's it come from? From how far?
He's in Houston.
Okay, and he comes all the way.
Yeah, it's Dallas.
Your events, wherever you are.
Oklahoma or Odessa, anywhere.
Awesome. Well, good guy, guys. Appreciate it. Hey, that's a good thing. I appreciate the shout out. Again, you guys have a good day and have a good night. I'll be safe.
Bye.